Hola, mi gente. You are listening to Dancing into Parenthood, the Entre la Familia series, where Latinos get to hear our stories about raising our children with special needs. I am your host, Dr. Divina Lopez, board certified pediatrician for over 10 years and mom to a little boy with autism and ADHD. My motherhood journey has been my greatest inspiration to creating this podcast because when it comes to our community, we have unique circumstances that we keep entre la familia that we need to share and no longer keep quiet about. On this show, I will give you the tools, information, and strategies to raising a happy and healthy human being. Each week, I am connecting you with other Latino families who have generously shared their personal journeys and struggles so that you can have clarity and insight on what it takes to raise such a special child. Before the episode starts, I want to remind you to follow us on social so you don't miss out on all the support I love to share with you. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Dr. Divina Lopez, and any place that you hang out on the internet. Also, I can't wait to start the parent sessions. We're starting group parent sessions, and I want you to be there. I want to help guide you if you are struggling with parenthood, if you don't have support, if you're insecure about the choices that you're making for your child, if you just want to get it right for your child, then I encourage you to join the 12-week program where we will meet once a week and I will teach you how to advocate for your child, how to navigate the medical system, how to navigate the educational system, where to find your support system, and how to build healthy family relationships so we can break those toxic cycles, create boundaries with family members, and also learn to love ourselves through it all. All right, mi gente, I want to see you there. So make sure that you go to my website and that you drop your email in there. That way you are the first to know when the group sessions start. Now let's get into the episode. Going into this, most parents are very, very scared. They feel like they have so many questions and they don't know. And one of the major questions that I get is like, what is my child's future going to be like? And my answer is always the same. My answer is always like, I don't have a crystal ball and I can't tell you. And
Right.
if I had one, I would do that for my own son. I don't know, right? But what
Right.
we do know how important it is to get the support early on, which is what you did. By 3 years old, you were already like, that's it. Let's get all the services even prior to 3 years old. You said 2 months before that. So you were already like on the ball, like let's do everything possible that, whatever we can do, we'll train ourselves, we'll do what we have to do. And you guys went like head on with that.
Yes. Yes. And still, because it's, a daily adventure of what is it going to be today, and we never know. And it's a constant, but it's a constant gauging.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just parenthood in general.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that my husband and I do where we have to discern, is this regular teenage angst or is
Right.
this
Yeah.
autism?
Right.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
And so we have to constantly gauge, okay, is it a developmental issue or is it just teenage angst? Is it just things in life that this is his time to go through these
that.
things,
Yeah.
in adolescence? And there has been so many things that he has overcome that we are completely grateful for.
Can you talk
And
about
then
some of those things? Talk
of
about some
course,
of the things that were like very challenging for him and how he overcame them.
well, for one thing, one of the things that sort of carried through for many, many years were transitions from one thing to another.
Yes.
From one activity to another, from one milestone to another, from one anything to another. So at the beginning, before he before he even became verbal, because he was nonverbal until he was about 5 years old. So he was already had done 3 years of school by the time he was able to actually speak intelligibly to where people could understand him.
Right.
So it was about 5, going from kindergarten to first grade at around that time. So we would constantly have to tell him everything that was going to happen. And so if you said we're gonna go to Linda's, then we're gonna go to Target, then we're gonna eat, and then we're gonna come back home.
Yeah.
And that had to be the way you did it.
Yep. Yeah.
So it took a commitment.
They are
and
so rigid.
Right. And so then if any of those things came out of order, it was like, and then at the time he was verbal. When he wasn't verbal, it was a tantrum. When he was verbal, it was like, you lied. And it's like, it's not lying. It's changing our mind. It's changing the order of, events. It's not like, but to him,
it was a lie.
It sounded like a lie because he understood what a lie is.
Things are very concrete. It's like you said this. It's just black and white. There is no such thing as gray in their world. It has to be this or it has to be that. It cannot be this whole little, we're not doing that. Yeah.
Yes. And another thing that
very good at negotiating. Was your son?
Say that again?
I said, is your son good at negotiating? Because my son will be like, no, you said this, so now we have to do whatever, and now we have to go back to this or whatever. My son is
when he was
good at negotiating. Yeah.
When he was younger, yes. When he was younger, yes. And then there was a little bit of bribing sometimes, where it's like, okay, we're gonna go eat first and then go to Target, and here's why. But you had to reason with him. You had to say, but here's why. It's because we're hungry now. We talked a lot when we were at Linda's. We spent a lot of energy, and now we're hungry. So we're going to go to eat first, and then we're going to be happy when we go to Target because we're not going to be hungry anymore.
Right.
And then it took a lot of that type of reasoning. And so there were transitions from just the order of events that were going to happen in his day. Then there were the transitions from grade to grade. And another way that we are very fortunate, and I don't take it for granted, we were very fortunate that he was at the school where I was teaching during his elementary years. Yeah. So he knew the teachers, at least knew of them. Right. And so he took to some teachers and not so much to others, so there was that. Yeah. So if he was in a year where he didn't necessarily vibe with the teacher, it was like, remember when I was in this grade? That's what I want now. And it's like, well, sorry, you can't have this now because she doesn't teach this grade. Yeah. This is the teacher you're with, and this is how we have to do, then the next one. So there was the constant him having to learn a new teacher was difficult. Yeah. It was difficult. So those types of transitions were difficult. So when he went from elementary to middle school, I took some time off from work. So I was only working half time. So I would work half a day. And I had to change grade levels because there was no other option. So there was pre-K half a day at that time. So I started teaching pre-K so that I could have the time to drop him off at school. And in case anything happened, because now he is not at school with me, he is in a school by himself, then if anything were to happen, either my husband or I would have the time or that freedom to figure out who's going to pick him up and who we're going to leave him with so that I can go to work in the afternoon. Yeah. So those were those types of things. We had to make those types of adjustments so that he could transition. Yeah. I did that for 2 years. And then his last year of middle school, that was when I was able to go back to work full time. Okay. And because he had, by that time, the transition issues had sort of played themselves out, and he was able to function and cope on his own with transitions. And so it took from 3 years old to about 13.
13, right. And
Yeah.
it does. It takes them longer, and that's okay, right? These things are okay.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that you were able to support him in those ways, right? That
Yeah.
you could figure out a different schedule, that you didn't have to give up your entire career. Because like my career
Right.
has definitely pivoted also
Mm-hmm.
since,
Yes.
since my son came into the picture. It's like I'm a super dedicated physician. I worked, I was on call. I was, working nights and weekends, and I
Mm-hmm.
was always working in an office and in a hospital
Right.
and doing urgent care and doing all of those things. And then when I was like, wow, if I continue working like this, I'm never going to be able to care for my son the way he needs it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
then I had to come to terms with like, am I going to continue this? Because I love my patients,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure just
Yeah.
the way you love your students,
Yeah.
hard because we chose these professions. We're very dedicated to these professions. And then you're like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought I would be doing in my career. And you feel
Exactly.
even that guilt, right? Of like, oh my goodness, I thought my career was going to look like this. And now it looks like this and this and this, because I always have to transition to, accommodate my child as well,
Right.
which is
Right.
not easy to find in the workplace. you know at least like for a physician, it's very, very difficult. It's a little easier for a teacher, but for a physician, like, I'm super blessed that I have the the job that I have right now. I'm super
Mm-hmm.
blessed. That's like, this is unheard of. The kind of like flexibility that I have is,
Yeah.
you know but then you have the flip side where, okay, so you need all of this flexibility, but then you're not going to make the same compensation, right? So you're not going to be
Right.
compensated in the
Yeah,
same way, which is
exactly.
like another thing that I had to deal with, but it's like, it's fine.
Exactly.
I'll figure out how to supplement that. um I think, it's your son. I don't know if he has any idea how blessed he really is to have the life that you have created, right? Because I mean, this is amazing hearing this from you. In every way, the way he was supported. And was he in an integrated classroom, or what kind of a
Yeah,
classroom?
he was in when he was 3 years old, he went into like a PPCD class, which is sort of like early childhood,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
a year before early childhood, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he was in that class, but after that, he was in a regular classroom. So we have in the district where we have inclusion, which
Yeah.
means that you are in the least restricted environment. And
Yeah.
so he was in a regular class with
Yeah.
all of the other students all the time.
Right.
So he was never in any pull-out program. He was
Good.
never in a classroom just for children with special needs.
Right.
He was never in that sort of developmental classroom or anything. No, he was always in a regular classroom because he had normal intelligence, and yes, he was academically behind, but that could be anybody. It
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that it was autism that caused it. It could
Right.
be, there's plenty of students in the special education who are receiving services who do not have,
Yeah.
autism. So he did have those things, but then, he had speech delay and all of those things. So he had a lot of services, but always within a regular classroom because he had normal intelligence,
Yeah.
and he was able to function
Mm-hmm.
academically in a regular classroom with those services provided. And so the special education teacher would go into his classroom for
Yeah.
part of the day and
Mhm.
then would come back and check on him
Yeah.
throughout the day. But he had the schedule that was given to him through his IEP as to how many minutes and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Talking about IEP, how did you feel in those meetings? I'm curious, as an educator, how did you feel in those meetings? Because I can't stand those meetings.
yeah, it's difficult to put down your
Mm-hmm. Yeah, take
teacher
off one
hat
hat and put
when
on
you
the
have to
mommy
be a
hat.
mom.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on the other side, when I was in one of those meetings for a student, it's difficult to take off my mom hat when I'm, you know, when I'm
advocate for them in those meetings,
exactly
then, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, one of the things that we did when we were in ARD meetings is also brought in that parenthood commitment that we always attended the ARDs together.
Yeah.
All the time throughout his entire career. I think all but one in his entire academic career did, you know, only one of us was able to show up at the time. But that's the one thing, is that both of you are there so that you show a united front to this entire panel of people that are going to tell you how it is. And you're like, yeah, right.
Right.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
how
right.
it is, you know. And I think that, again, I was fortunate that I was talking to peers at the table, you know, but there were times when there was struggle between teacher and parent because what teachers were saying didn't match up with how things were supposed to go according to his IEP.
Right.
And so they were okay to manage because I knew the process. I had been in these meetings. I was very familiar with them before I was a parent. So I knew how the things were going to go down. Yeah. And at the same time, my peers, my colleagues knew that they don't have to water down, you know, or put flowers on anything, because the type of parent that I was, the type of teacher that I was tell me the truth exactly how it is, because that's the only way I'm going to have a way to make progress. If you sugarcoat things, then I don't know. And then because of my personality, when I know that somebody is sugarcoating things for me, I start to lose trust in you, because then I think you can't be honest with me.
Yeah.
That, you know, what is it about me or what is it about you that we cannot be real with each other? You know? And when it comes to my child, my husband and I need to know exactly what it is, because you see him one way and we see him another way. And those two ways have to meet in the middle. And in order for us to really make progress, we have to know the truth. You have to know the truth coming from us, and we have to know the truth coming from you.
Absolutely.
And when there has been any sort of struggle, especially when it came to his conduct, oh, Dios mío. When it came to his conduct, we are both the type of parents where it's like, we're going to trust that what the teacher is seeing in the classroom is true, and that the things that you say happened. We're going to give you that trust. And then there were some teachers who would let us know things as far as his conduct that we were like, this sounds more like your complaint because you don't like it, rather than it's an actual problem with him specifically. You know what I mean? And so in those times that I can remember, it was about 3 times in different years that those types of things have come up. And it is difficult to be in front of your peers and have to tell them, you know, I have to put my mommy hat on, and it sounds like you're just complaining about it. But it says here in his BIP, these are the things that you have to modify for him
in order to accommodate.
Guste o no te guste. You know what I mean? And it's just like the way I have to do it. Guste o no me guste. This is my child, and this is what's best for him. Even if it's not the way I want to do it, it's the way he needs it to be done. That's how it has to be done. And so if you're complaining because he cries when he's frustrated. You cannot stop a person from crying, just the way you can't stop me from crying. When it comes, it comes.
Right.
And if I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry. And we're the type of parents that we just let them cry. Okay,
Yeah.
so if he's crying too much, hello, that means that he is overly stimulated. That is also in there. You need to provide a space for him, or you need to call in for support. That is what you have to do. You can't just make him stop crying, because now it has reached the point of annoyance for your classroom.
Right.
I get that. I know that.
Yeah.
But these are the things that you have to do for him. You can't come complaining to me that he cries when he's frustrated. This is the reason he has a behavior intervention plan.
Right. And actually, it's because he does that. Now, if you're not handling it correctly, because now he doesn't trust you as his teacher to provide what he needs when he's going through those difficult times. And then now you'll see it more frequently.
Exactly. And then exactly. And so when my colleagues, his teachers, or his teachers, because not all of them were my colleagues, but when those types of issues arise, you have to really call them out on they're following the IEP, the BIP, or whatever it is that they have in place. You have to say, but you have to follow these things, otherwise this system will not work. Yes. And you really really have to say that without, you never go into these meetings wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. No, they don't want to hurt yours, and you don't want to hurt theirs.
Stating facts.
But you have to say it. You have to say it, because you are the person who is going to be your child's advocate from birth to your life. It has to be that way. And if you don't say it, or you neglect to say it, then it's not going to be brought up, and it's not going to be addressed at all. Don't say it. And you absolutely have to. There was a situation when he was in middle school that a teacher didn't like the way this was a new term for us, the way he whisper screamed. So we were like, what in the world?
What the heck is that?
It's a whisper scream. So it's basically when he gets frustrated and talks under his breath. It's what you and I know as talking under your breath.
Okay.
It's what she called a whisper scream. Mm-hmm. This was another situation where I had to say, I'm sorry, but this is your own complaint. Right. If you don't like it, you have to understand he is doing these things because he doesn't want to tell you to your face to back off. He doesn't want to tell you to his face, you're making me uncomfortable. You're making me nervous. I don't like the way you are handling this situation, because he's a kind person. He doesn't want to tell you those things to your face, but this is what that means. Yeah. He has to get the frustration out, and he's going to whisper it to himself or talk under his breath. Right. You're going to have to get over it, or you're going to have to follow your BIP and do what it says to manage it. Yeah. And I was grateful that they brought it up, but I said, I'm sorry, this is a complaint. This is not this is not a problem with his behavior. This is a problem with how you are handling the way he reacts to too much stimuli, whether it's brought on by you, by the classroom environment, or by the way he feels internally. You have to be aware of these things, and you have to deal with it when it's not there. I will deal with it when, on our end, we will deal with it, and we will talk him through using his words, and expressing what he needs to express respectfully. But you also have to handle it on your situation. He doesn't have to come into your way of doing things. You are there to support him in how he needs things to be done. And that's the way you're going to meet in the middle. You have to teach him how to cope You have to teach him exercises. You have to teach him all of these things. You can't just be like, well, because I think it's disrespectful. Divina, we will be here for years and years.
Right.
If we had to list all of the things,
yeah,
in all of the ways that children can be disrespectful.
and
you know it as a parent, you know it as a person in the world, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm around human beings all day long. But
yes, exactly.
This is just a human thing. But no, it is, right? Like we cannot ask people to conform to the things that make us comfortable, right? And especially if you
exactly.
play this type of role as a teacher, me as a physician, a nurse, whatever, we can't expect people to, and especially a child, to, you know, become this other thing that we want them to be. And that's just controlling. And
Exactly.
we have to let go of those things.
Yes.
But, you know,
yes.
the one thing that I think is really important is that you knew how to advocate for your child. But there are many parents who don't know how to advocate for their children, right? I think I really, really struggled with these IEP meetings at first. One, because I wanted to be respectful. And because, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, and when I get to that point, because I'm a tourist, real, like I am the nicest, kindest person until I became a mama bear and people are attacking my son. Then you will see a side of me that you never thought existed, because I never knew it existed. I never knew this side of me existed, but I will do what I have to do, right? And so then it's like, charge. And you're not gonna like me. So my son's school, they did not like me at all. It was very difficult because I would just let them say all the things that they would have to say, and then I would have to, you know, say this and this and this and this. And when I already get to that point, again, it's not coming out in the nicest way, or the most educated way. I'm just like, well, this doesn't sound like it's all jiving, right? But yeah, and then the New Yorker comes out of me too, which is very sarcastic, and it's just not it's not the right way to handle it. But this is to the point that I get sometimes in these meetings, and I was never told that I could have someone to advocate.
Yeah.
I was never told any of those things either, right? So I would just feel super frustrated, and they would always want to take services away from my child and tell me how sweet he was. And I'm like, it's not about him being sweet. He is sweet. He is kind. He's lovely to have in your classroom because he's not disrespectful. He has beautiful behavior. Like, you love all of that. But if he's not getting what he needs in terms of his growth and development, then I need to push back. It's not about his behavior being so great in class. And they were always like compliment me on how great of a person he is. I'm like, I know he's a really wonderful kid. I'm very lucky to have this child in my life. You are very lucky to have him in your classroom. But, you know, these are the reasons why he's not ready for those services to be taken away from him, even though he is doing great, but he still needs this help. And so, you know, nobody ever told me about having help, right, during these meetings until Aaron was in ABA therapy, and then we had BCBA, and the BCBA came to a meeting with me, and I was like, and she offered to come. I was like, can you come? Yes, that would be amazing. Yeah. And she was an amazing advocate. And when I saw the role that she played in helping me during these meetings, I was like, everybody should have this, right? Like, everybody should have this sort of person come with them into a meeting because they know the lingo. You know, I'm a pediatrician, but I don't know the lingo that you guys all use in the schools. It's different. And even that shouldn't be allowed in these meetings, because if you're talking to a parent, then you should be using terminology that we all understand, right? Exactly. That doesn't happen in these meetings. And so, you know, I just want to encourage parents, like, if you feel frustrated or if you have no clue what's going on in these meetings, because a lot of times, again, I'm just talking about the community itself, the Latinos do a lot of and they don't know what the heck happened in the meeting. And then you sign that paper, you sign off, you're giving your consent. you know, to whatever they decided now to do in this meeting, and you're saying yes, you agree, when maybe you don't agree, maybe you don't understand. And it's the same way that I tell parents when they are sitting in an office with me, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna break it down as best as I can for you. I will show you different examples if what I'm saying doesn't make sense to you, because everybody's education level is different, right? So it's my job as a doctor to help you understand what's going on with your child. It's their job also to explain this to you in a way that you understand it. So don't do all of this head nodding if you don't understand. It's okay to ask questions. It's disrespectful. It's okay to say, hold on there, I don't agree with that part. It's okay to say those things and to say, my kid needs X, Y, and Z, and how are you going to provide that for them? I also think that it's important to prepare yourself for these meetings, because I went in just blind at first, like, okay, we're gonna talk about my son. All right. I was expecting more of like what it was like in a parent-teacher meeting, but these IEP meetings can feel very intimidating because you're meeting with the entire child study team, and it's like the school psychologist, the OT, the PT, you know, everybody's there. Everybody has a blurb. Everybody is going to, you know, tune in and say whatever they have to say during this meeting. And then it's like, okay, Dr. Lopez, and do you understand all of this? Do you agree with this for Aaron? And I would be like, no.
Right. Exactly. And then and how, you know, we were talking about earlier, it's difficult to take that hat off when you're in the different role, because when I would be sitting in an ARD meeting for a student, I would sometimes stop whoever, you know, stop the conversation and turn to the parent and ask them, is this, you know, is this really okay with you? And this is what this means. Like, before you agree to anything, this is what it means. And before you, you know, just accept all of the things that they say, you have to ask questions, you know. And another thing that I tell all the parents is that when they give you literature, it's a school system's legal way to protect themselves for all of the things that they're going to say and do. And I tell the parents, when you are given that packet that has all the protocols and all of everything, actually read it. Because when you read it, it's going to give you all of the acronyms for all of the lingo that they are going to use. Part of, you know, advocacy. There's a part of the literature that talks about advocacy, that it's within your legal right to bring an advocate, even though a lot of times it's not done or seen as a it can be seen in the school system as like of a person who's going to come and say gotcha, you know, just to see if everybody is doing their work the right way. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's like, you think that that's what it is. Well, that it is.
And it's okay. It is.
So even school systems have to be like, if this is a service that is provided and this is within their legal rights to bring someone, that you're going to have to accept that. And understand that this is going to be a part of this system because that's how you set it up, you know. And so one of my biggest things that I tell all of the parents or anybody who comes to me trying to navigate the school system, I tell them, first and foremost, read the literature. It is a lot, but it is going to be to your benefit because it's going to explain so much, and go back to it time and again anytime you have a question. And in navigating the school system when it comes to your child services, always say what it is that you need to say. It's at any time you can go in and request to have another art meeting or another staffing or another anything to ask questions, to question things, not just ask question, but question the way it's going, and make sure that you have that relationship with the teacher, that all of the services are being provided.
Yeah.
All
That's
of
the
them.
other thing, right? You have to make sure that they're actually being provided. And it's hard when they're young, right? Because your kids won't understand. But as they get older, like, and I could ask Aaron, like, okay, are they, making sure that you're getting to OT and whatever, or you're counseling, or, providing things like social skills groups and stuff like that. But it was really, I remember, I want to say, like, up to like second grade or so, after that he was able to like really verbalize to me, because now he understood how it all worked. And that was definitely like a game changer for me too, because actually the pandemic was what helped. Both the pandemic and having like school virtually, and me becoming a school doctor, those two things together is what helped me navigate the school system. So then it changed everything in the way that I was able to like advocate for him. And then everything just like really changed. But my son also got diagnosed around that time. My son got diagnosed very, very late, not because I didn't know it. I knew it from very early on, but because his dad and I were not on the same page. And that can lead to a real delay in diagnosis, because everything that I was saying that I saw, his dad would be like, I don't see any of those things. And that's a whole nother conversation, like the masking that can happen, because kids learn how to do that. They know that in certain environments it's not okay, and it won't be accepted, and they may get disciplined in a certain way that's frightening to them. And so they can, especially when they're like very high functioning, they're smart enough to know where I can do this and where I can't do this. But then like I would like really get a lot of him doing the releasing part, and so a lot of the behavior will come out. And so that's why I saw it so dramatically, because he really had to mask it when he was with his dad, and he still does, to this day. But like whenever we would fill out questionnaires, or if you spoke to his dad and you spoke to me about the same exact child, you would hear two completely different stories. So that also made our IEP meetings very challenging, because I looked like I was the parent thinking that my son just couldn't do certain. I'm like, he really needs support, and his dad would be like, he's totally fine, and the teachers would be like, he's fine. And then I'm like, really? Then why do I see X, Y, and Z? And I looked like I was crazy. I looked like I was crazy all the time.
I mean, and the fact that the behaviors are present, whether it's in any of the households, the fact that they're present should mean something. Should mean that they're actually happening.
Yeah. And then he would have like meltdowns at school certain days, and it was like, I was like, what's going on this day? You have to pay attention to so many things, right? Yeah. But now your son has graduated from high school, right?
Yes.
So update us. Where is he now in his life? How is he doing?
So he's graduated from high school. He is right now in the process of registering for junior college, or the community college that we have here.
That's amazing.
Around our area. It's called Lone Star, hence the state of Texas.
But that's amazing.
Yeah, and so
he's something that you actually thought would happen for him right from the start of getting a diagnosis, when we all start looking like into the future?
Oh, I mean, at the very beginning, we had a positive outlook, because we were committed to doing the work. And so we were like, no matter what, if the child is able to talk, that's our way in to the rest of the world, and at the time he was nonverbal, so there was that, so we thought if that was sort of our cornerstone of can he or can't he, if he's will eventually learn to talk and speak intelligibly and be able to go to school and function in a regular school, that to us said that he could be capable of having
anything,
a normal life. And like you, my biggest thing is I need you to be a productive citizen, because I know that I'm not going to be very popular after this comment, but I'm not the type of person like that says, oh, I just want my child to be happy. No, I want them to be productive and that's how they're going to be happy.
I want you to be functioning in society. Yeah.
Yes, because when they feel able, they will be happy. That comes afterwards, and of course I want my child to be happy, but I want him to be happy in the things that he is doing, in the things that he is capable of doing that bring him joy. All of those things come in a package deal. I don't think that you can just be happy on your own. You have to be productive in order to be happy, because yes, I am newly retired, but I still am happy when I am doing something productive. So right now I have my things that I'm doing, that I'm involved in, and that makes me and keeps me happy because I'm being productive. So what he's doing right now is he is in the process of registering. So we're going and doing these things. We have met with the academic advisor several times to get him the right classes. So our thing with him is that we want him to start slowly, because he does still need academic support.
Right.
The community college does have a support system. They do have a program for students with disabilities that will help them with either its technology support. They have another program where he can go and get tutoring support if he needs it. They have a program. That same program will go and check on him. So they'll have times where he'll have to go into their office to have just a sit-down meeting, see how things are going. What do you need? They also have their own study group and their own study lab where they can go and get the help that they need. So we are very fortunate that the college provides those things. And so our thing is, we tell them, you need to start slowly. You need to just get your feet wet. So they have a required course for all beginning students. And then he's going to take English with support. Right. So we just thought that's one of the easiest and the easiest to start, but at the same time has its own level of difficulty. Because reading comprehension has been one of his areas of difficulty. He can read just fine. It's that processing, the making sense of things. He's logical, so he doesn't always get some of those nuances that come with reading comprehension. He can't always think beyond the text because he hasn't had that type of life experience. For example,
that also is part of autism. That is part of it, because they have that very concrete thinking. It's like when the teacher asks, oh, what do you think might happen next? My son will always be like, I don't know, turn the page.
So, and it comes with, sometimes students with autism have a little bit of shelter. They're sheltered a little bit. And so they don't always have all of the common experiences that other kids do. So they may not be able to logically think through a subject that they're not, or a topic that they're not familiar with. So like I told, we would get into these things as a teacher. I would say, why in the world would you talk about baking a cake in science to first graders? How many first graders do you know have actually baked a cake by themselves? They don't use the stove. So why are you, you know what I mean? You have to provide that experience. You can't just test them and ask them questions about that when they don't know that process. They don't have that experience.
Don't even
that
get
life
me started with that.
experience.
That's just a school thing that I
Right.
don't even agree with. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like talking to kids from certain like kids that have been growing up in the Bronx can't understand things about this farming. They've never seen it. It's not real to them. Like you're giving them a
exactly.
whole scenario that they've never been exposed to, and then you're asking them. You can't do that to this kid. It's not even fair.
Exactly.
It's just not even fair. It's not. It's not a. Don't get me started on that. Really.
No, I
Because
know,
you know.
because like for you, public transportation is the subway. We have nothing near a subway
Right.
here because we
Right.
can't build underground. But for us, public transportation is the bus system. The metro
Right.
is what we call ours in our city. And so that to us, you know, we can see how something is going to be unfamiliar, even within cultures.
Yeah.
That's another, another thing we don't need to get into right now, but standardized tests, when
Right.
it's not
That's what I
culturally
was going to bring up.
appropriate, that. So back to where he is. That is his next stage. So he starts in August. He starts at the end of August. But I think that over the, through his school career and all of the things that we put him in with, his extracurricular things, we think that he has had a good, well-rounded, experience for him to go into a college course with and also it's going to take coaching. We have had to have a conversation that this is not a high school classroom. This is a real world classroom. So think of when you go out into the real world, into society, into public, all of the people that you're going to see, that's going to be a classroom. You're going to have kids who are still in high school. You're going to have kids who just graduated. You're going to have kids who are a little bit older than you. You're going to have kids who they're building their second career. You're going to have kids who are in their middle age, kids who are elders. You are, I mean, not kids, but people who are, all different ages. And so you have to read the room. It's going to be a total different experience than what you have gone through before, because everybody you have been with has been your age. Now it's not going to be like that. So you're going to have to read the room times 10, because not everybody is going to understand the way you speak. Not everybody is going to have to deal with the way you act, express yourself, do your little, if because kids are going to stim, even if they're completely focused, they can still stim. Not everybody's going to accept that. So right now we are in that stage of telling him, okay, now this is the stage you're in. These are going to be the different things that you're going to encounter. These are some tips on how you're going to have to cope with this other setting. And then the other thing is like, now this is your thing. Mommy and Papi are not going to go to a parent conference. That's you only. Mommy and Papi are not going to tell you where to go for tutoring. You have to now, because you're there at that school. We are not there. We cannot just show up to campus and be like, hey, are you at tutoring? Did you make it to your next class? That's going to be you. And so teaching him or just coaching him on those types of things, where like, now you're going to have to read a map and rely on your own social skills to say like, hey, can you help me get to this building? Can you help me get to this class? You're going to have to do all of those things on your own. I can no longer make a call and say, hey, Miss So-and-so, can you make sure that that's not going to happen? And all of these things, it's going to have to be all on his own. But we also tell him, have fun with it. And we told both of our kids, when they entered high school, be committed to your education, because that's our rule number one, is that school comes before and above all other things. But you need to have fun with it. Just get involved in all of the things, bring who you are to the table completely. Guste o no le guste, it's like, this is who you are, and that's how you're going to present yourself. And don't be afraid to say, oh, I've done that. Oh yeah, I can do that, or I want to try that, and
Yeah.
it's okay to tell them all of the things that you have accomplished, achieved, all of
Yeah.
the things that you're talented in, bring all of those things to the table,
Yeah.
because that's how you're going to make the connections in your classroom and be
Yeah.
able to thrive and make connections with people. We just tell them, go into it full force and all the way, and have fun with it, experience all of it.
I think this is really good advice, the whole coaching your child. Yeah, because that is probably something that people are not prepared to do because it comes naturally to you. But
Mhm.
you have to give your kids this extra sort of coaching to help them
Yes.
understand and navigate it for themselves, because even safety awareness for my child is something like he just totally doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter how
Mhm.
much I try. I'm like, are you really looking? Because he'll do like head movements like when we're crossing the street, but I'm like, are you really
Yeah.
looking? Oh, do you really
Right.
see what's going on in the street? Or
Exactly.
he goes into his own world, and I'm like, you're walking with me, so you're safe because I'm watching out for you. But what happens when you're by yourself, right?
Right.
So those are all like really, really scary transitions for me because we're getting there. But it's really important to just like tell them what the reality is, and then how they need to get used to it and conform to it, because now, just like you said, the school is not going to accommodate you're going to learn how to fit in
Yeah.
this new world over here, and it's going to take you some time to adjust. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your family and friends. Also, join me for my group parenting sessions. I want you to be the first to know, so go directly to my website at www.drdivinalopez.com and share your email with me. That way you'll be the first to know when sessions start. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Dancing into Parenthood and on TikTok at Dr. Divina Lopez. Also, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. That way you always know when a new episode drops. I love you. Bye.
Please keep in mind that all advice given in this podcast is general information. To understand your specific situation, you must consult with your pediatrician.